Greetings, everyone. I want to share my thoughts about our upcoming solstice and full moon on December 26th or December 27th, depending on where you're located around the globe. As we move into these powerful times, the solstice and this full moon, we are all feeling how accelerated the changes are right now, how intense the energies are as we come to the close of 2023 and move into 2024. And soon I'll be putting out a video about my overview of the astrological energies of 2024. And let me just say this, I think it is going to be an even more accelerated time of change as we're moving through this final phase of the ending of the age of Pisces to cross the threshold more fully into the age of Aquarius at the end of 2024. And I think the astrological energies of 2024 are powerfully guiding us through this final phase of deconstruction of the old forms into preparing to birth more fully the new paradigms, new forms of the Aquarian age. And if you haven't seen it already, I highly recommend that you watch my interview with Keone Hanalei, who is talking about that process of disassembling our sense of self, reassembling a new understanding of who we are, a new way of being. He profoundly brings his ancient wisdom from the Mu lineage into describing the times that we're in now and how we're each experiencing it personally. And it's guiding us to understand and open to and surrender to this profound time of transmutation and transformation that we're all in. And I truly believe as we understand the deeper meaning of the changes that are going on, then we can work with them and move more rapidly into the new paradigms and into the higher consciousness that we're all capable of in order to create a new earth together. But let's talk now about the energies of this solstice, which will be on December 21st. Here in the Northern Hemisphere, it will be the winter solstice. In the Southern Hemisphere, it will be the summer solstice. And it's interesting how the hemispheres experience these shifts of light and dark in a different sequence that allows us to balance those energies as we experience them in different ways around the globe. So here in the Northern Hemisphere, we're experiencing the shortest day and the longest night, the time of most darkness in our solar cycle of the year. Whereas in the Southern Hemisphere, all of you will experiencing the longest day and the shortest night, the time of the greatest light. In and of itself, that is telling us that we need to integrate and hold the wholeness of the light and the dark, to not get caught in polarization, but to honor that we all are carrying that energy of the light and dark within us. And I want to talk some about the meaning from that natural cycle and from natural law of darkness. One of you in my community has made a comment about this, and I just want to say how profoundly moved I am by this community, by your consciousness, by your insights. I really enjoy reading your comments and your words of wisdom and added insights, and I learn much from all of you. But this comment in particular was about the importance of how we understand and hold the wisdom of the dark. So often in our modern culture, we see the darkness as indicating something evil or something to be suppressed or something to be avoided. And there is that sense of the shadow aspects of ourselves and the shadow aspects of humanity, which are the ways that we can operate in unconscious ways or in ways that are destructive, harmful, out of balance. So I want to hold that there is that meaning to how we use the word darkness. But there's another archetypal meaning that relates to these natural cycles that we move through. The solar cycle of the times where at the solstices we are experiencing the greatest time of darkness or the greatest time of light. And here in the Northern Hemisphere, when we're experiencing this time of darkness, it is a time to honor the wisdom of the times of darkness. It is the time when we're called to go within, to be in our own inner process. The light and the energy of the fullness of sunlight is that time of year when we often are most active, most engaged outside in connection with others, out in the world. And we need to honor that balance of the times of darkness, whether we're talking about the daily cycle of day and night or the yearly cycle as we move through the seasonal energies. But the times of darkness are when we're meant to honor the energy of yin, of going within, stepping away from the yang energy, the active, outward expressed energy, to be in our inner process and also to open to the mystery, to open to what is not visible, what is in the darkness, that is a part of what guides us in our other ways of knowing. In the light, we're able to see what's around us and analyze it, visualize it, experience it in a direct and conscious way. In the times of darkness, we're called to be with our own inner experience and those times of not knowing, those times of being in the mystery, in the darkness, where we don't see or have clarity about what's going on. And in a profound way, we are as we're in this transition from the age of Pisces into the age of Aquarius, in a liminal time, in a time that is being in the mystery, being in the not knowing, trusting that something is ending and that we need to honor that time of being in dissolution, in the not knowing, in order to birth the new age and new ways of being. And these times at the solstice are calling us into that also. Remember that at the heart of our galaxy is the galactic center, which for us in our experience of it from here on Earth is the dark rift in the Milky Way. It is that black womb, that fertile void from which everything in the galaxy has been birthed. It is the fertile darkness that gives birth to new life. Remember also that only 4% of our galaxy is visible matter. The rest is in the darkness, in the mystery. And when we only focus on the light and what's visible, then we're caught in that paradigm of scientific materialism that keeps us from deeper wisdom, from honoring what is in the mystery. And that blocks us from the full spectrum of our capacity in our consciousness. And it prevents us from opening to the wisdom of cosmic consciousness and being in that awe and wonder for what is beyond our left brain ways of understanding and knowing. So the wisdom of the darkness calls us in to that sense of humility and wonder and honoring the mystery and being open to those more right brain ways of knowing that relate to our intuition, our capacity to sense and feel and know and be in relationship with what is beyond us, not through our analytical minds, but through our empathic attunement and our intuition and our deeper ways of knowing. So honor those energies of the light and the dark and the wisdom of the dark as we honor this time of solstice. And let me show you the chart. I'm going to highlight a few aspects of this solstice chart, but then focus more on how they play out in the full moon chart, because many of the aspects and energies that we're going to experience at the time of the solstice carry over into the time of the full moon on the 26th and 27th. What's significant at this time of the solstice is that the sun, and you can see it's now at 29 degrees of Sagittarius, is in alignment with the galactic center. So it is a profound time when we are called back into connection with Source, into our connection and honoring of the energies of the galactic center. And remember, this is such a powerful time when we're experiencing more fully cosmic energies coming to us, solar energies, because the magnetic field of the Earth has lessened. So we are more powerfully being impacted by these energies coming to us from the galactic center, calling us into higher consciousness and into being in our deep connection with Source, with cosmic consciousness, with our spiritual awareness. At the time of the solstice, the moon will have just moved into Taurus and be in aspect with Jupiter and trining Mercury. And I do believe that that movement of the moon into Taurus is reminding us to ground ourselves in our connection with nature and our ways of knowing and understanding in alignment with natural law. Remember that Jupiter is related to our right brain ways of knowing, Mercury, our left brain ways of knowing. So in this trine, it's guiding us to be grounded in our connection with nature and to integrate our left and right brain ways of knowing, to be in attunement with each other, to be in balance with each other. The most profound transit in this solstice, and it will carry over into the full moon, is the Neptune square with the sun and with Mars. I truly believe that this energy with Neptune, which is so powerful in the chart of the new moon, the solstice, and in a moment you'll see that it's powerfully present at the time of the full moon, is guiding us, Neptune in Pisces, into honoring and opening to and surrendering to this time of disillusion, of allowing ourselves, like Sedna, to dive into the currents of change that we're in this time and allow our old ways of being to melt away in order to expand into higher consciousness, into a more spiritual way of being. And this Neptune at 24 degrees of Pisces is also about letting go of judgment and opening more fully to compassion. So in its aspect with both the sun and Mars, how are our beliefs, Sagittarius, our ways of being, our ways of acting, coming from compassion rather than from reactivity, polarization, division, and disconnection from each other? So as you honor this time of the solstice, whether you're in the northern hemisphere or the southern hemisphere, honor that compassion for yourself. Allow yourself to open to that compassion for others, for all of us who are going through this time of disassembling and reassembling, of dissolution into reconfiguration, into new ways of being. And as we move through that time of transition and transformation, we're all feeling the intensity of that, and sometimes the confusion, the overwhelm, the anxiety around that. which also relates to that Neptunian energy of feeling, heightened sensitivity and feelings and attunement to these energies in the collective. But allow yourself again, like Sedna in that myth, where her father is trying to take her back to the village, take her back to the forms of the past. And she realizes that both she can't go back to those old ways of being. And when her father, in his own fear, when the storm is activated by Raven, throws Sedna out of the boat. This is what's happening in our global experience right now. We get frightened, we get terrified of the stormy times that we're in, and we lash out at each other in our anxiety, in our angst, in our anger and confusion, just like the father did in that story of Sedna, the Inuit goddess. So he tosses her out. She tries to cling to the boat, and he lashes out at her, hitting her hands with his paddle, such that her fingers break off and dissolve into the sea. But remember, those parts of her that were broken off dissolve and morph into seals and whales. And Sedna realizes, I can't cling to the boat. There is no security there. There is no security in going back to the village and the ways of the past. I need to trust and let go. And she dives into the ocean and dissolves and becomes the goddess of the sea. This is what we're capable of in this time, dissolving our old forms and sense of identity into an expanded consciousness and a whole new way of being, homo luminous ones, beings of light, energy beings. And this Neptune is an aspect with Sedna, now at 29 degrees of Taurus, and is supporting us in honoring that, letting go and being in the currents of change in this time, to know that we're being transformed into new ways of being beyond our wildest comprehension. But remember, in that story of Sedna, she let go, not knowing what the outcome would be. She surrendered to her dissolution and to the mystery, to the not knowing. And that is what this solstice energy is calling us into also. And to hold this time of dissolution, not in a way that we cling to the boat or lash out at each other, but that we actually open to the energies that are calling us into transformation, into transmutation, and hold each other with compassion. So as we experience this time of the solstice in a few days, wherever you are on the planet, honor the energies of the light and the dark. Honor this profound time of transition that we're in. And remember that at the times of the solstice, the energy lines of the earth are activated by these solar and cosmic energies. So take time to be in nature. If you live near a significant energy line and you know its location, spend time there, open to the guidance that you're getting from these energies coming to us. But if not, be in nature, honor the cycle of the sun, of light and dark, honor the energies that are guiding us through this time of dissolution into expansion, into new ways of being. And now let's see how these energies carry over into the time of the full moon. So as I mentioned before, this full moon will occur on December 26th or December 27th, depending on where you're located. And at that time, the sun will be at 4 degrees of Capricorn, opposite the moon at 4 degrees of Cancer. And both now will be in an out of sign square with Neptune. So I want to come back to this powerful Neptunian energy, but I also want to highlight that as we're moving towards the end of 2023, we're seeing Pluto in its final degrees of Capricorn, and it will move back into Aquarius by January 20th of 2024. As it's in its final degrees of Capricorn now, through the January 20th, and then it will come back into Capricorn September of 2024 through the end of November, when it moves fully into Aquarius and will be crossing that threshold more fully into the Aquarian age. So in its final degrees of Capricorn, it is deconstructing, disassembling, taking down the old paradigms, systems, and structures that are out of balance, that need to die in order for us to move into new forms. And it is now moving out of its square with the lunar nodes. I've been looking at that in terms of a 5-degree orb. It's still in a square with them, but now it's moving out of that really intense energy and supporting us and continuing to integrate the meaning of that profound square, with Pluto and Capricorn squaring the South Node in Libra opposite the North Node in Aries. It's been going on since July. And as I've said in my earlier videos, this is a profound karmic choice point to come back into balance in order to be opening to moving into these new forms. So this square has been guiding us in this process of deconstruction to be opening to moving into new creative forms. And remember that Eris Xena has been conjunct the North Node since July and will continue to be there through mid-January with a 5-degree orb, supporting us in stepping off the beaten track and daring to move in new creative directions, and to trust that we can open to these new paradigms, new forms. It's significant that not only at the time of this full moon is Neptune squaring the sun and the moon, but the other two transpersonal planets, Uranus and Pluto, are sextiling Neptune. Pluto empowering that energy of Neptune, Uranus activating our clarity about what we need to release and how we are coming back into that right relationship with nature and that compassion for each other. So it's empowering that Neptunian energy in Pisces that is guiding us to step into more compassion and to open more to our spiritual awareness. And again, to allow ourselves to be in the not knowing and to open to our intuition and our deep connection with spirit, with cosmic consciousness. The meaning of the Sabian symbols at the time of the full moon for the sun and moon are: for the sun, it's about our need to honor our personal power to face challenging situations. And the moon at 4 degrees of Cancer is our need to honor and hold with compassion our own imperfections. So I see this profound square with Neptune and the moon supporting us in letting go of judgment, holding ourselves with more compassion so that we can hold each other with more compassion. And the sun in Capricorn is helping us look at how we can ground and take responsibility for how we're facing the challenges of this time of transition, and grounding that compassion in how we're living in our day-to-day lives. Remember that Neptune also is continuing to square Mars, and now is also squaring Mercury, supporting us in holding our beliefs with compassion and allowing ourselves to see things in new ways and to let go of that out of balance Mars energy, which is about aggression, destruction, acting out, to act from compassion. Let me show you also some critical other dwarf planets, Kuiper belt objects that are active at the time of this full moon. In particular, it's incredibly significant that Ixion, or some call it Ixion, is literally Cazimi, conjunct the sun, and also conjunct the sun are Pholus and Quawar. Pholus being a centaur, part of that belt with Chiron and Chariklo, and Quawar is one of the Kuiper belt objects that is named after the creation deity of the Native Americans of Southern California. So I think it's highly significant that all of these energies are conjunct and active at the time of this full moon. And it's significant that as we move into 2024, Quawar and Pholus will be squaring the lunar nodes March through November of 2024. So these energies are, along with Ixion, going to continue to be very powerful as we move into 2024. And what does that mean? What is this dance of these energies all about? From my perspective, Ixion is a very challenging and fascinating energy. Again, it's a Kuiper belt object. The story of Ixion, I think, holds a lot of meaning for us in this time. The Greek story of Ixion is that he was the king of Lapiths, and he had a wedding feast as he was getting married. And he was meant, as part of the cultural ways of honoring your in-laws, he was meant to give a gift to the father-in-law. He didn't want to do that. So he did not gift his father-in-law, who was rather incensed, and so took some of his horses as the bridal gift. Ixion, being angry and resentful that his father-in-law would do that, ended up planning a banquet for him in which he set it up so that he pushed his father-in-law into a burning fire and murdered him. This was such a violation of respect for kin, of the laws of the time, that Ixion was shunned and treated like an outlaw. And none of the other princes in the area were willing to engage in a ritual that would absolve him of his guilt. But eventually, Zeus has mercy for Ixion and offers for him to come and visit Olympus and be released from his guilt. Ixion comes to Olympus, becomes attracted to Hera, Zeus's wife, and sets out to seduce her. Zeus, realizing this, causes Hera to turn into a cloud, and Ixion seduces her, couples with her, and gives birth to Centaurus, who then later becomes the father of the centaurs. The centaurs, remember, are the healing ones. So this is interesting that we have, coming from Ixion's lineage, eventually these beings who will help us heal, help us integrate these shadow aspects of ourselves. But the story of Ixion is about a man caught in his ego, his arrogance, his impulsivity, his willingness to act out and violate ethics, laws, norms for his own ends, without any remorse, without any capacity to look at his behavior, take responsibility for his actions in order to heal and transform. He stays locked into his arrogance and his ego and his hubris. So I think it's really powerful that this Kuiper Belt object is in ongoing conjunction with Pholus, one of the centaurs, and Quawar. Pholus is about healing what needs to be healed. Melanie Reinhardt's phrase for Pholus is take the lid off, allow what's needing to emerge to come out for healing, for resolution. It has to do with issues with our ancestral lineage. It has to do with these issues that we've carried across generations that need to heal. And in particular, it's guiding us to look at how have we acted out of arrogance, out of ego, in ways that are destructive, divisive, that are about acting out, betrayal, rupture of relationships, disconnection from natural law, disconnection from harmony with others and with the sacredness of life. And then Quawar is guiding us back into harmony. Remember, this is the creation deity that integrates the sacred feminine and the sacred masculine. Quawar is holding the both and is androgynous in that sense of the wholeness of the feminine and the masculine, the full integration and unity of them within ourselves. And Quawar was the creation deity that would sing life into being and then call what he had created, the mountains, the rivers, the animals, the humans, into that song of harmony to resonate with that energy of living in right relationship, right balance, that capacity to honor the sacredness and consciousness of all that is. So how profound is it that as Pluto is deconstructing the old systems and structures, Capricorn, we're in this powerful full moon saying, look at what is in the shadow, that aspect of our darkness that is about division, disconnection, refusal to live in harmony, in connection with cosmic consciousness, not honoring the sacredness of the life of others and all around us. And Pholus is supporting us in healing, and Quawar in helping us come back into balance. So let's look now at where these energies are in the sky. So at the time of this full moon, the sun, in its connection with the Kuiper Belt object Ixion and Quawar and the centaur Pholus, is in the stars of Sagittarius, right in the part of Sagittarius that is the arrow of the archer, pointing towards the galactic center, towards source. We are called at the time of the solstice and this full moon to come back into our connection with cosmic consciousness, with source, to allow that to guide us in this time of transformation. And Mercury and Mars are close to the galactic center and under the stars of Ophiuchus, the great healer. Our ways of thinking, our ways of acting are called into healing so that we can come back into compassion and into harmony within ourselves and with each other. And the full moon will be close to the stars of Gemini. And remember, the stars of Gemini are the twins, Castor and Pollux, who in Greek mythology represented the energies of mortality and immortality, and darkness and light. So again, the theme of this solstice and this full moon is how are we integrating those energies within us? How are we coming into our wholeness? How are we allowing ourselves to see those shadow aspects of ourselves, those ixion aspects of us that get caught in acting out, reactivity, division, ego, those aspects of ourselves that lack gratitude, connection, right relationship with the life around us and with others, and those aspects of ourselves that are about our own disconnection from our self-awareness, our witness self, our capacity to take responsibility for our choices and their consequences. And it's also those aspects of ourselves that are unwilling to change, unwilling to see the consequences of our actions, to take responsibility for our own healing and our own coming back into balance. So, at the time of this solstice and this full moon, I really encourage you to honor being in the mystery, to take time for reflection, to take time for ceremony. Ceremony is a profound way of opening ourselves to the energies of cosmic consciousness and to be honoring what we're needing to release in order to be open to this time of dissolution, disassembling, as we're being guided, I think, powerfully in 2024 into how we reassemble ourselves and move into the new paradigms of the Aquarian age and an expanded consciousness. So honor the wisdom of the darkness, of the not knowing, of being in the mystery, and allow yourself to face what's in the shadow, those ways that you've been caught in disconnection or dis-ease or disharmony, disconnection from source and division with others, or polarization, or acting out, or reactivity, aggression, destruction. Allow yourself to take that time to hold with compassion that we all have that part of us that can act out in ways that are coming from our trauma or our unconscious or our ego. And allow this time of the solstice and the full moon to allow you to hold yourself with compassion, allow yourself to release that way in which you're caught in the ego, to open to being in the compassion from cosmic consciousness, the love of the cosmos that is supporting us in letting go of those out of balance patterns, to open to healing, to open to coming back into harmony so that we can move into these new ways of being. We cannot move in to the higher consciousness, the energies of the fifth dimension, the energies of being homoluminous ones, if we haven't dealt with our shadow. As the Peruvian shamans would say, if we haven't dealt with the heavy energies that hold us back and pull us down. This is the time to allow yourself to heal, to honor that we all carry trauma, we all carry those ways that we're out of balance or disconnected from parts of ourselves. And as Keone so profoundly talked about in his interview, part of our healing comes from that remembrance that we belong, we matter. While we may feel disconnected from each other or disconnected from source, the energies of cosmic consciousness are always there with us, loving us, holding us, being there to help us heal, to remind us that we do belong and that we can come back into that connection with source, into the oneness of all that is, and then come back into our own wholeness. Then we can be in this time of change, open to the expansiveness of our spiritual consciousness, move through this liminal time, this time of mystery, to be rebirthed in new ways beyond our comprehension in this moment, that allow us to ascend into new ways of being with the earth, with the cosmos, with the oneness of all that is, with the sacredness of all of life. So hold yourself with compassion in this turbulent time. Honor these energies that are surrounding you with love and compassion and support to help you in your own way, like Sedna, release what gives you the illusion of security, to let go of the structures and the identity of the past, to open to being in the currents of change, to be in the sea of cosmic consciousness, guided into spiritual expansion and new ways of being. Blessings and love to all of you.